Howdy folks, welcome back to Doing Brew. This is day 2 of our kitchen remodel, and we just finished demoing the floor. And as we expected, there was quite a bit of water damage with the floor. So now that we got the floor up, we're down to the joists. The good news is that the majority of the joists look pretty good. But we will have to do some sistering to shore up the joists before we put down the new subfloor. So with that, let's get to work on day 2 of the kitchen remodel. And the first thing we got to do is rip up that tile floor. And honestly, these tiles came up much easier than they should have. They were just put down on plywood. That's never a good way to install tile. You can get a good idea here of what we're dealing with regarding the unfortunate water damage to the floor. So we're going to pull all this old plywood up, and then we'll see what's going on with those floor joists. So this home was built sometime in maybe the 30s, 40s, but what we're dealing with here on the floor is 3/4 inch solid pine with a 1/4 inch plywood on top, which was put down prior to the tile. So that 3/4 inch solid pine, and you'll see here in a moment, running in 45 degrees across the floor joist. That was a pretty common subfloor back in the day before plywood was common. So the best way to get that up is to cut through it with a circular saw and then pull it up in relatively clean pieces after you make those circular saw cuts. Now, it's important to not cut into the floor joists. So once you're able to figure out the thickness of the subfloor you're cutting through, you want to set the depth of cut on your circular saw to that measurement. And that way, as you cut through the subfloor, you're not cutting at all the floor joists because you don't want to weaken those at all. So let's go ahead and let this run as we finish the demo of our subfloor. And now we can get our first good look at the damage to the floor joists, and it's pretty extensive. In fact, as I've mentioned before, I'm surprised these guys were still able to hold up the weight of the floor, the cabinets, and the appliances. So this kitchen remodel was not begun anytime too soon. So now we have to cut out the damaged portions of the floor joists, and then we're going to do what's called sistering. First thing we have to do is establish a plumb line just to help us in guiding that saw blade through the joist. You want to make a nice clean cut, as clean as you can, through the old joist. Cut out the rotten portion. And measure for your new joist. Now, this first measurement here is just reaffirming the fact that I'll be able to use a full 12-foot joist without having to cut it. That'll be the first replacement joist that we'll install. And in this 11 by 11 kitchen, this 12-foot joist will span the distance between the footer and the beam just perfectly. And with just a little bit of coaxing with the hammer, that goes into place nicely. And then we're going to temporarily secure this joist with some screws. Now I'm using deck screws just because they're coated and I know they'll hold up over the long haul. And we'll go back and permanently secure this new joist to the old joist with some through carriage bolts. Now I just want to get things nice and squared up here. I'm going to take a final measurement to replace the portion of the joist that I cut out from the old joist, the rotten part. And I'm going to cut that on the chop saw, and then we're going to fit that in to the portion that we cut out. So essentially what we're going to have are 2 joists in the place of 1, a new joist, the old joist with no rot, and then a new filler piece. So this is going to actually end up being stronger than it was before, stronger than it was when it was newly built. Again, temporarily securing that portion of joist to the new joist with some deck screws. That's just to keep things from moving around, and then that'll allow us time to drill through and install the carriage bolts. So here's a look of all of the joist repair we did. You can see the new joists running along the old existing joists with the new portions installed that eliminates all of the rotten portions. And then of course we put in the blocks along the exterior wall there, and that'll help to support the plywood all along that run. Keep things nice and square and true. And here we're using a 1/2 inch drill bit to drill through both joists and then install our 1/2 inch carriage bolts all the way through. That'll be secured with a washer and a nut on this end. Now I like to install 2 carriage bolts on each end and then a number of singles all the way through the run of the joist to secure and properly marry up these 2 joists together. There we go. Okay, now it's all downhill from here, and the relatively easy task of drilling and through bolting all of our new work to our old work to ensure that all of our joists are secure. Okay folks, that's enough work for one day. We're going to finish up this video with a preview of what's coming up next. Next time we're going to be installing our subfloor, and we'll go over cutting, gluing. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of liquid nails. Setting our subfloor in place and securing it. Plus a lot of tips and tricks of the trade to ensure that your subfloor goes in stable and secure. And still to come in this entire kitchen remodel series, electrical, putting down a concrete board floor in preparation for tile work, drywalling, painting, installing our tile, cabinets, countertops, and finished carpentry. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching this video, folks. See you back here next time on Brew.